This is the Louie T Network.
Man, I love some football. Man, I love some football. My favorite week is week 1, cause I'm watching football. First comes the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then it gets even better when your team makes the playoffs. 32 teams go hard for one thing. They work for one thing. That Super Bowl ring. 32 teams go hard for one thing. They work for one thing. That Super Bowl ring. We in the lab room.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Thank you for joining me. Welcome. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou, of course. Thank you for joining me once again. You're here in the lab room, week number 1 of the National Football League. Sunday Night Football, Denver Broncos at home hosting the Indianapolis Colts, looking to exact a measure of revenge. Keep in mind, this Indianapolis Colts team handed the Denver Broncos their first loss of the season last year. So, you know, Peyton Manning wants to get this Indianapolis Colts team. It's the only team in the National Football League that he has not beaten in his illustrious career. So it was the last thing to check off on his bucket list of things to do in the NFL. So you wanted to see how Andrew Luck would come in and fare out in Mile High against Peyton Manning and company. And you wanted to see how this Denver Broncos offense would react to not having Wes Welker. Remember, last year, without Welker in the lineup, they struggled towards the tail end of the season. So you wanted to see how they would circumvent that injury and how the chemistry would be between Peyton Manning and Emmanuel Sanders. It looked good in the preseason. So this Broncos team got off to a very fast start. Now, it was slow in the first quarter, only 3 points, but they ratcheted it up in the second quarter, scoring 3 touchdowns, all of them being Peyton Manning to juice touchdown strikes. And Julius Thomas had a huge game, 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards receiving, 7 catches. He was monstrous in this game. And all of the damage that this Denver Broncos team did came essentially in the second quarter as they built a commanding lead at the half, 24-3. And they really kind of rested on that lead, and they didn't do much of anything in the second half, which allowed the Indianapolis Colts to rally and battle back. And this is one thing that I've learned over watching Andrew Luck over the last couple of seasons, is that no matter how much his team is down, you can never count Andrew Luck out. And remember, we saw that in the postseason wildcard weekend last year against Kansas City, down 31-7 at the half. They come back and win that football game in dramatic fashion. So this is a team that never says never. And Andrew Luck is a kid that will not allow his team to go down without a fight. And he put up one heck of a fight in this game, having his team roar back in the fourth quarter, but it was not enough. Even aided by the great onside kick by Pat McAfee that they were able to recover, they still weren't able to come all the way back, as it was just too tall of a task to ask and too tall of a mountain to climb. They cut this lead down to 24-31, but they just never were able to get all the way back into this game. But they gave it a run, did the Indianapolis Colts, but they fall in the Mile High City, 31-24. Big game for Peyton Manning again, and hooking up with Juice and them making some beautiful music together. Andrew Luck had some struggles in the game at times, but he found a way to battle back and get his team within striking distance. It's just too little, too late for Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts. Now, it'll be interesting to see how this Indianapolis Colts team continues to grow as they get better and better as a football team collectively. And if you're the Denver Broncos, great start to the game, but you have to continue to be more consistent for 4 quarters. Nonetheless, you come away with the victory, 31-24. You go to 1-0 in the season. If you're the Indianapolis Colts, it was a tough, hard-fought loss. You started slow. That's what ended up getting you in the end. You got to be consistent for 4 quarters. You end up 0-1 after this matchup. So that's going to do it for this breakdown. I thank you for joining me. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I have plenty more games to break down in week number 1 of the National Football League. See you in a bit.